My name is Jim Capel, and I work for Marc Emery at City Lights Bookstore, which was then his store from 1998 to 1992, at which time myself and my business partner, Teresa Tarasevich, bought the business from Marc, but we've kept in touch with him since that time, and yeah.
And so Marc's in a tough situation. Leanne, what do you know about it?
Well, I'd never heard of him before I started working here, which is, I guess, 3 years ago next month. And but actually my third day of work here, there was a crew in shooting a documentary about him, doing an interview just in the back of the store here. So I learned about it pretty quickly, to the point where you know, we've had him here a couple of times. In June we had him visit the store, and in July actually we hosted the London date on his farewell speaking tour at the Aeolian Hall, and I did most of the planning for that, so I've gotten quite familiar with his situation.
Now, from what I understand, one of Marc's first defiant acts was opening on a Sunday, which was prohibited back in those days, right? I think he was selling high times, and he was open on a Sunday, which went against bylaws.
Yeah, sort of came to, he's always been a real dyed-in-the-wool libertarian. Well, unless there was a very short window of time there in the 70s when he was a socialist, actually. But then he became sort of a more like a pure libertarian from about 1979 or 80 on. And I guess there was a couple other minor causes that he was known for within the London community, but then on a national stage in chronological order, Sunday shopping was a big one. That was around 86 to 87, and actually he was eventually he was warned several times by the London police services about opening on a Sunday, at which point he finally opened on a Sunday and actually gave books away. He didn't even sell them.
That was
he actually
the
gave them. No, but he was still charged for that. He was actually charged for giving books away, like so.
Wow.
Yeah, and then he had a couple of other causes. So the Two Live Crew, the then band Two Live Crew, As Nasty as They Want to Be.
Yep.
Cassette and LP. A couple other things. We sold the Satanic Verses when some bookstores wouldn't sell them. But I would say from about 1990 on, he's been pretty much sort of a cannabis activist only. Hasn't really diluted any of his energies into anything else since that time. And that was the time when he first sold How to Grow Marijuana books, High Times magazines, and they were all banned in Canada at the time, ever since Mulroney brought in a law in around 88, I think, or something like that.
Paraphernalia laws.
Yeah, well, they were enacted at the same time, the paraphernalia and the literature laws. Marc wanted to take on just the literature laws, which have since, in that time, been tested in the courts and fallen. The paraphernalia is actually still illegal because it's never been tested in the court system. So.
And look at Tommy Chong's situation. I mean, Operation Pipe Dreams, he got pinched, I guess, 5 years ago or so for shipping in between states, and that's how they...
yeah, and that was even just, in the States, but, where everything's illegal.
Yeah, I mean, we're really seeing a crackdown. We're seeing a lot of globalization, and a lot of our liberties are being taken away from us. And and then Marc, moved out west to open Hemp BC.
Yeah. And
founded Cannabis Culture magazine, which of course you stock here at City Lights, I'm sure.
Yeah, the magazine?
Yeah.
Yeah, well, we do. We're just strictly second-hand store, so we only stock them in a second-hand capacity.
That's right.
And I'm not sure if you're aware, but the magazine is now defunct.
Oh, really?
It actually closed with the...
Well, it's
online.
It's not being published in print anymore. It's strictly an online publication now.
Okay,
good.
And that's as of about, what, 4 or 5 months ago, I would say?
Yeah, because it was a bi-monthly magazine, and I don't know when the last issue came out, but
I think it was in the spring-ish.
Yes.
Yeah.
So, yeah.
Okay.
But, we'd proudly sell it and display it, I guess, when we do get them come in, yeah.
And so, just getting back to the current situation, Marc's going to be extradited to the States. Do you know where they're saying that he's going to be serving a sentence, or do you know any sort of details about that?
I am not absolutely sure, so you'd have to check on this, but I know his court appearance for the sentencing is in Seattle, so I imagine that it'll be in Washington.
It's in Washington State.
Yeah.
He's married, and his wife lives in Vancouver with him. So
Jody, right?
it was going to be a prison that she would be able to have visitation rights to and get to in a somewhat viable fashion. But yeah, I can't remember the name of it offhand.
Yeah, well, it's, you know, and I remember him saying once that he looked forward to being a martyr, if that's what it came to, in order for him to get his, you know, his views across. And I mean, I don't think he should be classified as one of the world's most notorious drug dealers.
Yeah.
I think he's a humble man with, you know, a simple, but real outlook on drug laws and how wrong they are. And,
well, like I said, one sort of unifying theme in all of Marc's politics has just been liberty of the individual, but not at the without making incursions into other people's liberties,
civil
which
liberty,
I guess kind of a libertarian thing. So, like, you know, he's generally been just a pro-cannabis activist since then. But like I said, I think it's important to see the larger picture that that just, like I said, exemplifies like one of many issues that he believes in, like Sunday shopping and other things like that, where it's not really, you know, sort of
separation of church and state maybe is a good.
Yeah,
you know,
yeah, well, yeah, and
what he's
even broader
campaigning
than
for.
that, just yeah, not transgressing on other people's rights.
Yeah, free enterprise, right?
Yeah.
And that's great. So City Lights is going on strong, and any plans for the future as far as the store in general? Is he going to be back doing a book signing?
Well, probably eventually, but he does plan to write an autobiography in prison. He doesn't want to spend that long there, but he has set a timeline of finishing his autobiography in prison that he's stated a couple of times. So it'll be a pretty interesting autobiography, because I know from his personal life and his upbringing, he had a pretty colorful childhood and upbringing. So
maybe he'll have email access in prison. They'll work something out. I don't know if they have Wi-Fi. Probably not, eh?
Possibly.
You're there to do.
I don't even know if they let you have any computer access in prison.
Yeah.
That's been actually. There's been a lot of bad instances with that. Letting convicts allow access to computers. I know in the States before, so I think they've really kind of curbed those sort of things, isn't it?
I'm not too sure.
Yeah,
I haven't heard anything about
from
it.
what I understand, what Marc had said was that he was going to write his autobiography like by hand on paper, and then give it to his wife sort of in installments. And even
cool.
that kind of thing, I think, it's got to be vetted through the prison. Like, they've got to read it and stuff like that. So, but we certainly hope the best for him. Like I said, it's been a long legal process, and I think it's kind of taken the mick out of Marc, largely, just because having a dark cloud like that over you, like, it's one good thing to think, hey, I'm not in prison right now, but like I said, it's been more than 4 years, and like, just knowing that there's a very possibly a dire future hanging over your head, that's not really adding to anything except his stress level. So
yeah, and he copes very well, and he always puts on a brave face,
yeah, he's definitely contactable through Facebook and some other email things if you do need to get a hold of him.